Hi, I'm Robbie Bobby. In this video, we'll continue looking at ACA's official, unofficial steps. In the prior two steps, 6 and 7, we acknowledge our emotional wounds from childhood and humbly ask our higher power to help us with the healing process. The next steps, 8 and 9, point directly to the healing process. They are the heart of the ACA program and define recovery for an adult child. And while each step is powerful in its own right, together they achieve something that neither step could do on its own. As such, I'll read them together and then discuss the relationship between the two. Step 8. We became willing to open ourselves to receive the unconditional love of our higher power. Step 9. We became willing to accept our own unconditional love by understanding that our higher power loves us unconditionally. At first, it may seem that these steps aren't telling us anything new. To trust in a loving God or higher power and to love ourselves are not revolutionary concepts, so you can easily read through these steps without noticing their power and brilliance. In my opinion, these steps are trying to accomplish what was supposed to happen when we were children, and to reverse the damage of it not happening when it was supposed to. You see, all children are born with the ability or capacity to receive love from their parents, which then enables the child to love itself. If the child receives unconditional love, it will learn to love itself unconditionally. However, if the child receives conditional love, or worse, if the child is neglected or abused, then it will learn to hate itself, or at best, to love itself conditionally, by measuring up to someone else's standards. This can lead to perfectionism, approval seeking, or any of the other 14 traits, including alcoholism and codependency. In essence, it leads to para-alcoholism, trait 13. The root cause of which is a lack of self-love. One book I read described this as self-love deficit disorder. As a defense mechanism, the child either lost or never developed the capacity to receive unconditional love from itself or from others. In other words, the natural ability to receive love gets shut down. This is what steps 8 and 9 are attempting to correct. Since the end result of growing up in an alcoholic home is to feel unloved and unlovable, it does no good to simply tell the ACA to practice self-love. The pump must be primed, as it were. We must feel loved and therefore lovable in order to love ourselves. This is the purpose of step 8. We became willing to open ourselves to receive the unconditional love of our higher power. Like all the steps, this is a process, not an event. But as you start to practice it, then step 9 will happen on its own. We became willing to accept our own unconditional love by understanding that our higher power loves us unconditionally. Of course, this was supposed to happen when we were children, with our parents, but we do it now with the help of our higher power. ACA literature says that our parents were merely the instruments of our existence, and that our true parent is a loving higher power, whom some choose to call God. And one last thing I'd like to point out, and that is the relationship between steps 8 and 9, which can be described as a virtuous cycle, since each step has a positive effect on the other, creating an upward spiral. It's the opposite of the vicious cycle or downward spiral, which exists between many of the traits. As self-love expands, the traits will collapse. This you can count on. And that wraps up this video, which is meant to be food for thought. If you got something out of it, please click like and subscribe and forward to a fellow traveler. I'm Robbie Bobby. Thank you for listening, and as always, keep coming back.